besides if we have to do, His Excellency will speak. So we'll have a cultural display. After that, we introduce him, and then we'll have our surroundings message. So you are here with us. We know you are here with us. So we will do that. So let's have the cultural display. And after that. Yes, Victoria Cultural Center. And here are the beautiful cultural display. Ladies and gentlemen.
the Eastern region are here. He is not former, the regional chairman. Yes, he's here. And he's Mr. John. Ladies and gentlemen, anybody who have read my first book, the town know that
This gentleman attended Achimota School, went to Ghana Secondary School, went to the University of Ghana. He has been an assemblyman. He has gone to the University of Ghana. He is a member of Parliament. He was a deputy minister. He was a minister. He is on record to have left his house in the morning as a vice president and returned in the evening after he left as president. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we put our hands together for him? Yes.
Is this place fine? Is here fine? We are streaming live on Facebook.
His career developments included being an expert in history, communications, and social psychology. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency John.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me first congratulate you all, executives and members of the NAPS, for coming together to hold your 8th Biennial National Delegates Conference here in Okeriko. A few weeks ago, I received a delegation from NAPS, and they had a simple purpose: to invite me to this conference. And I said, if God gives us life and gives us good health, I'll be here today to join you again. We have a mutual interest in ensuring that our nation receives quality education at all levels, from basic to tertiary. And so I'm happy that it was possible for me to find space in my itinerary to accept the invitation to be the keynote speaker at this important function. It is instructive that the theme for the 2022 conference is repositioning private schools in the era of digital growth. Education is now more than a mere avenue for opportunities and success. It is a prerequisite. Education has become the most valuable currency of the digital age, because children in Ghana are now competing with children everywhere in the world in this information-rich global society. Quite clearly, as a nation, our competitive edge is linked to the comparative robustness of our educational system. And private schools have contributed immensely to Ghana's education delivery system, as well as to our socio-economic upliftment over the years. The truth is that we cannot talk about Ghana's education system without acknowledging the very complementary role of private sector players, which is anchored around those of you gathered in this hall today in our education delivery system. The private sector's involvement in school education dates as far back as to the colonial days, where the early merchants and the Christian missionaries introduced a school system with a curriculum that was largely focused on what is called the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. Post the colonial era, the important role of private schools in our educational and national development was further demonstrated with the promulgation of the Education Act of 1961. It provided a legal framework for private institutions or individuals to establish and manage schools in Ghana. The importance of private schools is further underscored by Article 25(2) of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, which endorses its establishment by stating that every person shall have the right at his expense to establish and maintain a private school or schools at all levels and be of such categories and in accordance with such conditions as may be provided by law. So this is your umbrella constitutional legislation that allows private schools to exist side by side with public schools. Informed by this legal provision, successive governments have in various ways supported the private sector to participate in education delivery. This is largely because of budgetary constraints coupled with structural challenges that has made it impossible for government alone to adequately equip the public school system to meet the quality schooling demands of all its citizens. Private schools have expanded access to education, deepened quality and depth of education, and provided alternatives in our national agenda to ensure that no child is left behind in obtaining adequate knowledge and skills in this increasingly competitive world. You can therefore understand that National Democratic Congress and my personal commitment as President to the development of private schools at any time that we have been in government. There's a convergence between social democracy and private sector participation in education. As a Social Democratic Party, we consider private schools as complementary partners in our efforts to enhance equitable access to opportunities for all Ghanaians. It is one of the reasons why I have not understood the policy underpinnings of the decision taken by the current government towards the implementation of the free senior secondary school and the introduction of the double-track system. The double-track system is a coping mechanism which was introduced to manage the increased student enrollment arising from the free secondary education policy, but which has had great effects on the education of our wards because of the reduced contract hours and too many months spent out of the school campus. Meanwhile, while this unfortunate situation exists, there are available information on the large number of existing private senior high schools with enough facilities that could have been utilized to avert the immediate infrastructural deficits that the public system has brought about following the implementation of the free senior high school. Engaging private schools would have saved parents and students from the psychological torture, the unpleasant experience, and unplanned costs they have encountered with the introduction of the double-track system. That's why in my 2020 campaign, and as was stated in our NBC 2020 manifesto, we're emphatic that we will expand the free senior secondary education program to cover students in private senior high schools operating in underserved and I give the example of a secondary school in the Western Region, a private secondary school. When the free senior high school system was introduced, and it was restricted to only students in public schools, all the parents moved their children from the private secondary school all into the public school to go and take part in the double-track system. When there were classroom blocks, there were laboratories, there were all the facilities in the private school to be able to accommodate these students, if only the government had realized that this was an underserved area and that private school could have been enrolled into the free senior high school system. We must make use of all our resources, both public and private, to get the kind of quality outcomes that we need in secondary education. Ladies and gentlemen, I downgrade because of the policies that are currently being implemented. Sacrificing quality and introducing hidden levers of cost negatively affects our agenda to improve our national competitiveness in this competitive and complex digital age. And the situation gets worse day by day, not only in terms of quality of education in the public schools, but even in terms of the quality of the lives of the children on campus. Recently, you've seen videos of secondary school students dipping their hands into hot bamboo to fetch their share because the feeding is inadequate, they are very malnourished in school, and the parents have to supplement by every day providing additional provisions and money for these children to be able to feed. Ladies and gentlemen, I have not spared any opportunity to encourage this government to consider a national stakeholders conference to review the implementation of the new policy. Note that I use the word review again. This is not the first time I'm talking about a review. A stakeholders conference to review the implementation of the policy. There are so many educational professionals and experts, including in this room, many of you, who will be able and willing to bring to temperature to me a cancellation of the program. Several notable voices since I suggested a review have also joined me in calling for another look at the program in order to improve it. And I can mention 3 former vice chancellors of our public universities, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyemang. I can mention Professor Ibrahim Mensah of the University of Ghana. I can mention Professor Ernest Aite, former vice chancellor of the University of Ghana. These people have all added their voices to the call for a review of the implementation of the program. When they make these calls, they surely are not calling for a stop or cancellation of the free SHS program. Politics may have taken a better part of government's actions and pronouncements, but here we are today, and the very negative effects and impacts that I spoke about are staring us directly in the face. Today, not only is the present implementation model proving unsustainable, but it is also leading to the lowering of quality and standards in our secondary education. And so one can ask, for instance, wouldn't a bursary system that allows students to access secondary education at schools of their choice, whether public or private, not have served us better than the current blanket free senior high school system? This bursary system could have been targeted at the poorest families and households in our country, and so that they could use that bursary and go to the school of their choice, and government will pay for their education while they are in that school. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is now for us all to rise to the occasion and collectively agree as actors in the political and developmental space on the need to depoliticize issues of urgent priority, such as education delivery in our country. We owe it to our people. This is about the future of the next generation and about our collective survival as a people. Another important matter that this conference should dwell on is the quality of education. In the past, quality has been relegated to the background. What is the quality of education being offered our children today, particularly those in the public schools? What are we teaching our children? What are they learning? How is what they are learning connected to our national orientation and our overall development aspirations? How do we ensure the process of implementing education delivery that does not negatively impact on quality? All these concerns should form part of the national conversation we are having and the particular conversation that you have here during your biennial conference. The delivery of education stands on 3 legs, and those legs are access, 1, 2, affordability, and 3, quality. Unfortunately, the focus has normally been on only access, a clear political agenda for votes during elections, and not about the future of tomorrow's leaders. As for those in the basic schools who are far away from the voting age, the issue of lack of textbooks is one of the major bans that we face. Indeed, the quality today is very poor. Affordability is a challenge as parents keep complaining every day of being met with costs for one item or the other in an era when education at both basic and secondary is supposed to be free. It is my view, in agreement with the expressed concerns of others, that as private schools you must reposition yourself appropriately and work towards harnessing the benefits of today's digital revolution to provide quality teaching and learning opportunities. I'm emphasizing quality education in the repositioning agenda because it is only when access and expansion or affordability is indexed to quality in the provision and delivery of education that it becomes a key to national development. It was for this reason that the last two administrations of the NDC, the one under Professor John Evans Atamis and under myself, prioritized quality in our educational policy formulation and implementation because that is what is most important. What is the use of education if it does not have quality to give the learner a chance and opportunity in life? With Professor Nana Dionopuku as Minister of Education, we did not merely plan for access, we planned to improve quality. And that's why for the 4 successive years when I was president, Ghana emerged tops in the West African Secondary School Certificate exam in all 4 occasions. More importantly, we invested in laying a strong foundation at the basic school level by ensuring that all pupils at the basic level had access to all the 4 core textbooks required. At the senior high school level, we focused on equity and quality issues by investing heavily in infrastructure and pursuing a progressively free education that initially targeted day schools within the context of the 1992 Constitution. And so for those of you who are not familiar with the Constitution, I'll quote it, and it's Article 25(1)(b). And it says that secondary education in its different forms, including technical and vocational education, shall be made generally available and accessible to all by every appropriate means, and in particular by the progressive introduction of free education. This is what our Constitution says. Because the Constitution wanted to make sure that when we introduce it, it will be sustainable. And so it says we should introduce it progressively. Unfortunately, for some populist reasons and for reasons of elections, somebody decided to implement it at once, one booger, and we are living with the consequences. Ladies and gentlemen, let us also remind ourselves that the pursuit of quality education is mandatory in Target 4.1 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and that is Goal 4. It enjoins member states to ensure that by 2030, all girls and boys are able to complete free, equitable, and quality primary and secondary education. My administration believes, and the future NDC administration will surely work towards ensuring that the impact of Ghana's educational system is transformational by prioritizing the strengthening of the primary school level, which lays the foundation for secondary education. If you don't get it right at the primary and basic level, whatever you do at the secondary level is a wasted effort. You need to lay a strong foundation at the basic level, and once the child passes the basic level and gets to the secondary level, even if quality at the secondary is not too bad, they are able to move through and continue. And if you understand basic education, and you spend all your money on secondary education, it will be garbage in, garbage out. And this is where we must get it right. I therefore challenge you to place the primary school level at the center of your strategic repositioning agenda. I know most of you have the full pass-through in basic schools and in secondary schools. And in this repositioning agenda, we must strengthen the primary level and begin to introduce digitization at the primary school level. Let us not only wait wait until the students are in secondary school before we begin to fully apply the digital revolution to them. Undoubtedly, the COVID-19 has driven home the importance of digitization in our workplace. The pandemic has compelled drastic changes in the way we do things in every aspect of our socio-economic life, including education. It has challenged the efficacy of the traditional face-to-face means of teaching and learning. And as you remember, during the COVID, when schools were closed and teachers could not physically be in the classroom with the students, many schools adopted the innovation of continuing their lessons through Zoom, using Zoom facilities and all that. And so it isn't something we should abandon because we think COVID-19 has abated. We can use it to expand access and improve quality. And for institutions and countries that already had digital learning platforms, the COVID-19 experience only afforded them yet another layer to improve on their platforms and make them even more adaptable to their learners and their teachers. Technology-based teaching is the way to go, and no longer just an option. COVID may have compelled education planners, heads of schools, teachers and students to appreciate the advantages of digital teaching and learning. But the truth is that ICT has been with us long before the pandemic came. ICT facilitates interactions between teachers and students. It has shaped distance education and distance learning programs, particularly at the tertiary level, for several years already. If you remember, distance education has been in place at the tertiary level for a long time. It is only now that we can spread it down to the secondary and primary level. In fact, between 2009 and 2016, the NDC invested heavily in an e-schools program. If you remember the e-blocks we were building across the country, there was supposed to be 200 of them. And these were supposed to be centers of learning and ICT driven. It is a pity that the investment that we made into this program as a country has been truncated as I speak. We also laid a very solid ICT infrastructure through the Ministry of Communications to make IT interventions accessible for sectors including education, both public and private. For the education sector, our emphasis was on the STEM subjects and the Foundation for Technical and Vocational Education. ICT had a huge role to play in this area. We delivered various programs to back this determination, and this was to improve internet access across schools, both public and private. And one of our major flagship projects was the 1,000-kilometer rural fiber network that we laid from Accra to Boko, and a 300-kilometer radius fiber network within the Accra-Tema enclave. These fiber networks are currently serving more than 35 districts where schools and others can have access to internet facility. We also provided a 4G LTE network with over 119 base stations across the length and breadth of Ghana and connected all MMDAs to this infrastructure. We also continued programs to equip schools, teachers, and students with computers, tablets, laptops, and other essential ICT hardware, including the establishment of ICT centers within schools and in communities to encourage modern learning and teaching approaches. All the community-based senior high schools we inaugurated were furnished with ultra-modern computer centers through a collaboration between the Ministry of Communications and Education. And the list is endless. Digitized teaching and learning have come to stay. The research suggests strongly that the efficient use of ICT is a feature of high-quality private school. Through ICT, schools can integrate the traditional lecture style of teaching and learning with a better, more active, and more stimulating mode of pedagogy. And by this we mean just standing in front of the blackboard and writing, algebraic formulas and things are not the only way to go, or trigonometry or whatever you do when you teach mathematics, or whatever subject you teach. By adding ICT in the classroom, you can do more demonstrations and illustrations that make it easier for the children to understand what you're teaching than if you just stand in front of the board and continue to pour whatever you learned in training college. In this digital age, the schools avoid teacher-centered modes of teaching that perceive students as passive participants. in the teaching and learning relationship. They discourage the compulsion to learn strictly from books and notes. And so the world is moving from just strictly books and notes and strictly teaching to interactive teaching, where it is interactive between the teacher and the student. And I know that most of your private schools are already implementing this. The public schools are the ones that normally remain far behind. And I've seen videos where a poor school teacher is struggling in a rural school with stones to show the students what a mouse is. And in one of the cases, when he said the stone was a mouse, and he said the girl should touch it, she was running away because, I mean, why would she want to touch a mouse? It was a stone. And I saw one teacher who had drawn the whole computer keyboard on the blackboard. He has taken his time and was using it to teach them what it is. But unfortunately, there was no computer in the classroom. So instead, schools must see the teacher as a learning facilitator and place emphasis on a learner-centered pedagogy, where an enabling environment is created for students to use computers, laptops, tablets, and internet to explore and learn more about topics. It is not in doubt that a few private schools in our country have been very proactive and innovative in coping with this post-COVID-19 challenges relating to digitized teaching and learning. I want to congratulate you, the proprietors of private schools, for the effort you've made. Such schools, such as yours, have created virtual classrooms that make use of relevant programs and applications. They've also established well-stocked computer science laboratories to facilitate student learning. This is highly commendable. There are, however, many other private schools that are delaying in seizing these opportunities that this period affords to respond positively to the new trend, and I urge schools that are behind to catch up. In our time, we did not have that luck. If you were given homework, you had to go to the library and look for the books to do your research, to be able to do your homework. Today, our children are lucky. They just go on Google search and then just Google the topic, and they get all the information at their fingertips. It wasn't the same when our generation was in school. The Ministry of Education and the National Information Technology Agency must come to your aid and provide free technical assistance in this regard. I'm also ready and willing to hold your hands and talk to the MasterCard Foundation for assistance in ICT, so long as the association will meet your side of the bargain and ensure that their investment will provide jobs for the youth of Ghana. And as I get to the end, I'm aware that the pandemic has also dealt a hefty blow to many private schools, and they're only just recovering after this very difficult period for you. I want to congratulate you on your resilience in bouncing back. It was a very dark period for proprietors of schools, and I'm happy that you are all here today together, beaming with smiles. It means that things are getting back to normal than they were. It's not perfect, but we are out of that dark period, and we will work together with you to make sure that your smiles will even be broader at the night before. Given your important contribution to national development, there is a need to critically review government's COVID-19 support to include private schools and make it more responsive to the schools towards a complete recovery from the shocks from the pandemic. After all children are Ghanaian children, whether in private or public schools. And so as the President said, they must be treated all as our children. And people must not be punished because they opted to attend the private school. I encourage the leadership of the Private Schools Association to quickly internalize the principles underlying digital index pedagogy, and more importantly, demonstrate practical commitment to the advancement of e-teaching and e-learning. Let's invest in digitizing teaching and learning, and proprietors should be encouraged not only to invest in computers, but also in the necessary sharp-edged ICT tools and software that will promote quality teaching and learning. Special attention should also be given to teachers' capacity, building and strengthening in e-teaching. This should be a place that we place priority on, that will build the capacity of our teachers when it comes to using e-tools for learning. The professional development of teachers should also help them to use digital technology and helping students to develop 21st century skills in problem solving, critical thinking, innovation, and communication. On this note, I wish you a very successful deliberation at this 8th Biennial Delegates Conference of the Ghana National Association of Primary Schools, and I thank you very much for your kind invitation to be part of this. May God bless all of us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can we now take our seats? We want to thank His Excellency for this very insightful delivery. Every paragraph of his speech is an eye-opener. And I am happy for some important things he raised. One, that he will be ready to talk to an RCT group if our leadership will avail ourselves and begin to fulfill our part of the bargain. I thought you heard that. Yes. And when you are listening to wisdom, listen to what will help you. Is that not it? Yes. And we are so happy. Yes. If you are lucky to have the paramount chief seated here as our chairman, His Excellency visits us, it means that when the paramount chief of a village attends the funeral, all the inner rooms will work with because he has seen the programs of the village. Thank you very much.
And I wish to announce to you that His Excellency from today is an automatic member of the Ghana